Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Just want to remind you that tonight is the finale, the final chapter in our Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn chat sabotage run. We will be doing the entirety of the tower tonight. It's going to be a blast. Some of the best chapters in the game, in my opinion, are the first couple, so come enjoy that and have some fun, and of course look forward to Fates on Friday. So today I wanted to go through the series and talk about how supports work in each game. I'm not going to go super in depth in some of them, and I want to talk about the ones I like the most, and then in the end I will give my ultimate support system, how I want to see it in my next Fire Emblem game. So the earliest instance of what you could call supports was the triangle attack. The triangle attack, when the three white-winged Pegasus Knight sisters surrounded an enemy and one of them attacked, then it was like an automatic critical attack, if the attack hit. So that's like the earliest kind of like support thing we ever saw. And then in Gaiden, Fire Emblem 2, Alm and Celica had a support where if Alm attacked someone while Celica was next to him, he would gain 100 crit, or basically just always critically attack the enemy. And from there, it starts to become more nuanced. Once we get to Mystery of the Emblem, characters have character-to-character bonuses, and they share these bonuses with characters that are relevant, that they have relevant bonds with. So Marth, of course, has a bond with Sita, and because they're like engaged or betrothed, or they're going to be married at some point. Cain and Abel, the Cain and Abel might have one, I don't remember, but it's just tons of supports. And it's usually like 10 points of hit or avoid, or sometimes I think it's 5 hit or avoid, and sometimes the supports are actually one way. I like this system. I think it's pretty interesting, but it's really unintuitive in that you can't just play the game and know all the supports. You kind of have to look it up, honestly. Like, you may be able to infer that some characters would get supports from some characters, but for the most part, I think you really need to just kind of, look it up. Next, we get to Genealogy of the Holy War, where the biggest aspect we see for like a support type thing is the lover system, where units fall in love, and in the first generation, they fall in love. You get some different units and different stats, bonuses, item inheritance and stuff in the second generation. But on top of that, if two characters are in love, or if they're siblings, so it's kind of like a family bonus, if they're standing next to each other, they get 20 crit in battle, which is actually a really big deal in Genealogy of the Holy War, because not everyone can critical attack unless they have a special skill called critical, or if they have an item or weapon that has killed over 50 enemies. Now, I'm not as sure about this next part, where I'm pretty sure lover bonuses, like if they're within a few spaces of each other, it gives hit and avoid. I'm not sure on that, don't quote me. For some reason I couldn't find that on like Serenus Forest or anything, but for some reason I feel like that's a thing. Now on to Thracia 776, where we're back to how Mystery of the Emblem did it, where it's flat bonuses to characters who share story-relevant bonds. And I think there's quite a few more in Thracia than there are in Mystery of the Emblem, which is great to see, but also, again, you kind of have to guess which ones are which. Like, there's some that you wouldn't necessarily assume, like Leaf and Asbel have one, I believe, and it kind of makes sense because they had like a bond or whatever before he left, and now Asbel's been looking for him and all this different stuff. So I guess you could infer it, but it's the kind of thing where you kind of have to guess or look it up. Now to the GBA titles. All 3 GBA titles function almost exactly the same, except they made it easier to get supports as the games went on. In Binding Blade, they had like this weird cap on how many support points you could gain in a chapter, making it like near impossible to like actually gain supports in a reasonable time or a reasonable fashion. And that was fixed in the later 2 games. But essentially what happens is characters, they stand near each other, and eventually they can have a support conversation on the map. But this is like the introduction of the support conversation, which is pretty cool. They have a conversation, they step from C to B to A. At A, they get bigger bonuses. C is a lesser bonus, but it's still a bonus nonetheless. And these bonuses are dependent on the character's affinities. And these affinities are just like weird little elements, I guess you could call them, that each character is assigned. Like some have fire affinity, lightning affinity, dark affinity, light affinity. And these different affinities have different bonuses associated with them. Some have avoid, give avoid, some give attack, some give defense, some give hit. And when essentially what you do is you take those bonuses from each character, add them together, and multiply them by the support level they're at. So if you're at an A support, you multiply it by 3, and that's the total bonus you get if the characters are within 3 spaces of each other. So it sounds really convoluted, it sounds like a lot of steps to really understand, but honestly, this is the most intuitive one so far. It's the easiest one to understand, and honestly, just kind of like, if you know the affinities, you can actually plan out what's going to happen just by playing the game. Now we move on to the Tellius games, which honestly take a page from the GBA games, except rather than make it, in Path of Radiance, rather than make it like these map conversations, they are conversations at the base, which I prefer. I think that makes for a more realistic setting to have a conversation with someone rather than on the battlefield, or it makes for more interesting situations for the characters to be in to talk rather than always being in the midst of battle and then being like, oh, well, I gotta go fight something, goodbye. But they kept the affinity thing. They added new affinities and stuff, and it's interesting that way. It's good. It's basically the same as the GBA games. Except for Radiant Dawn, got rid of the support conversations. Anyone can support with anyone in Radiant Dawn, which is cool, but you can only have one support partner, which kind of sucks. But the bonuses are really easy to see. It's very laid out plan for you, and honestly, it's great that you can do anyone with anyone. It creates a lot of possibilities. Alright, Shadow Dragon is similar to Path of Radiance, except there's no support conversations to my knowledge. I could be wrong on that for some reason. And it's less intuitive. You don't really see the tangible bonuses like in front of you. It just kind of happens in the game. I don't know. That might be wrong too. I did some research. I did research this, but for some reason I couldn't find a ton of information on some of the intricacies of it. New Mystery of the Emblem, same as Shadow Dragon, except they do have some support conversations this time, especially with my unit. And then we get into Awakening and Fates, where the supports really take the front, like it's a front seat, the front page of the game, where supports are based on battling next to each other, and pair up, where you get bonuses to your stats. You also get extra hit, avoid, crit, all this different stuff from it. And it's super easy to see when characters are gaining support points because they get the little hearts above them. And you just have tons of support conversations. I think a lot of people will point to Awakening of Fates as maybe their favorite support system because of how much there is to do with it and how easy it really is to understand. But my personal favorite support system comes from Echoes. Echoes kind of took what like Awakening of Fates did, but also kind of mixed it with like older style support systems like from the GBA games kind of. So you just gain points by battling next to allies and stuff and participating and healing each other and whatever else. And you get supports over time, and you have these little quick conversations on the battlefield. And honestly, a lot of them are pretty quick, and I enjoy that because it makes more sense to me than having this long drawn out conversation in the middle of a war, you know? And they have a quick conversation, and it's cute little character development moments, and then it moves on. But my favorite part about it is that there's a lot of them that are story-based support progression, meaning like Gray and Tobin have support in the early game, and then I think they have another one that can happen like midway through part 3. Then their last one can happen in like part 4. And it's this interesting like love triangle relationship with Claire, and it's cool. I like it, and then they end up just being bros in the end, which is so cool. The bonuses in Echoes are a little less easy to just kind of grasp or know what they get. Although in the battle forecast window, you do get to see a little like orange line where the support is affecting the different attributes of hit, avoid, crit, and all that. Which I do like seeing that, but I wish it was a little more forthcoming in what each support did. Now, Three Houses takes like Echoes and Awakening and kind of mashes them together. So much like Awakening and Fates, there are basically it's almost like endless supports. There's so many supports all over the place. And on top of that, they take Echoes story progression stuff, which there are certain story progression supports like you can't happen until after Three Houses spoilers for the next like 30 seconds. Okay, so after Geralt's death, after the time skip, stuff like after major events is when you can have like continue the support chain, which I think is pretty cool. Now, Three Houses spoilers. No more spoilers. Okay. And from and you can see the bonuses from a menu and stuff. And I also liked that they have linked attacks, where rather than just being within 3 spaces of your support partner, it needs to be your support partner is in range of attacking the enemy. It just makes more sense logistically in my head, and I think it's a fun change to the formula. All right, so overall, what would I have in my Fire Emblem game? If I were to make a Fire Emblem game, what is the perfect support system? And I think what I would love is the story-based support progression of Echoes and the quick snippets of Echoes, because personally I don't like reading. Although the voice acting makes it not as bad. And just have them be really interesting and character-based. I also like the limited supports of Echoes, making them feel more special. I don't know, they didn't feel like an every map occurrence, or like they're happening all the time. It was this thing that I got to experience, this cute little moments in the characters' lives, and it was really well done. I think the bonuses, though, I want to see a return to Tellius or GBA games, where every character has an affinity that really displays simply what your support bonus is going to be. And I think Radiant Dawn does that the best, as showing the player what each support does. But those are just my thoughts. That's what I would want. What would you want in a support system? What would you want in your ideal Fire Emblem game? How would the characters interact? How would you gain support points and all this different stuff? I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say on this, because I don't know. I've honestly been playing Echoes lately, and it's got me thinking about a lot of stuff. So this is just one of them. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and like the video, please. Thanks, guys.